I've seen Pate do this. I've seen other people do this. Just kind of a temperature check of the fan base, just
Mhm.
what the fan base is feeling. So like, I don't really know like how to quantify or how to gauge like where we were at, maybe early December, but it wasn't good, you know.
Yeah.
And if you said like it was 100 degrees, like as hot as you could realistically be, like I mean, I guess you can get like to like 108 and stuff and still not die. But if you just said that we were at 100 degree temperature, right, or water was boiling Celsius, whatever, yeah, we certainly weren't in a good spot. How do you feel like where do you think the fan base is right now? Because we have had the coaching changes. They had a pretty nice close on the trail. Things have kind of cooled down on certain situations. You got rid of some of the coaches you thought you should. Maybe didn't get rid of everybody, but like just where do you think, and again, I'm not looking for an actual temperature or an actual, but like a 1 to 10. If everybody was like a 10 back in December, like where are people right now, the way you read things?
All right. So I'll do Celsius, right? So 1 to 100. I think that I have a lot of the vast majority of my followers on X are Florida State fans, and I follow them all back for the most part. So I see kind of the extremely optimistic ones, and then the very pessimistic ones, and I feel like you and I are kind of probably in the middle there. But I'd say again, going on the Celsius scale, 1 to 100, I'd say it's probably a 35 because you don't go from 13-0 to 2-10 and just have a ton of optimism about what's happening with the program, especially when all your best players are gone. You saw, Fisk and Verse were two finalists for Defensive Rookie of the Year. Verse obviously won it. So I just feel like there's not a ton of optimism right now in the fan base. And even me, I've been accused of being overly optimistic. Even I can't say I'm optimistic right now. I like the changes they've made. If Norvell really is giving Malzahn total control of the offense, I think that's a good move. I like the transfers. We talked about it in our first segment. I do like some of the guys we brought in, but I'm going into the season with very low expectations, and I think most Florida State fans are, to be honest.
Got a few games left in Coach Ham's career. We've got the NBA going, NHL. I mean, shoot, I'm over there on college baseball and a bunch of stuff. I've made money on the Noles all 3 days, and hopefully I'll make it again today. So make sure that you're betting with BetUS. YouTube 150 is the code for 150% sign up bonus on your first deposit, 125% on your next two. All of that up to $2,000. We appreciate them for their support. Yeah, no, I don't. So what was your number again? Sorry.
I think a 35 is what I said.
Oh, okay. All right. So I was thinking of it backwards. Like I was thinking like hottest would be like, okay, so that makes sense. Yeah. So I'm probably somewhere closer to like 50, right?
Okay.
Is the way I read things. So maybe just slightly above that. I think that people, I think that a lot of the changes have not given like a ton of confidence for the season. Like Florida State's going to go out and win 9 or 10 games. But
Yeah.
I do think a lot of people are much happier today than they were like the Saturday after Thanksgiving, right? Like I think that literally just firing some of the coaches they did and moving on from people like started to smooth things over, started to like get people going back in the right direction. And then I think the like we mentioned, the close on signing day, being able to go out and I mean, they've got a pretty good portal class. I think that probably weighs less on people's minds because they had a good portal class last year, right? And
Yeah.
what did that get them, right? So I do think that the portal is a little bit less, but I do think that there's a little bit better feeling around the program because one, time has passed and you've gotten further away from last season. You got rid of a lot of the problems that were on last season's team. And you did. I mean, you retooled your staff and your roster pretty extensively at, like we just talked about, the positions that you had to do it. Now, I don't know of too many people that are like over the moon about Castellanos, but I do think people are happy about the way that they've gone out and attacked the portal on the offensive line and the wide receiver room. So I do think people are happy with some of the things around them. So I don't know. I'd say if everybody was like a 0, back at the end of the year or 1 or a 2, it's probably it's probably somewhere between our numbers, to be honest with you, somewhere between 35 and 50, and that's kind of where everybody is at this moment. So
All right.
I don't
So
know.
the
People are
official,
definitely in a better mood though. People are in a better mood than they
yeah.
were.
No, I agree with that. So the official double fries no slaw temperature check, if we're going on the Celsius scale, 0 to 100, is a 42.5.
I think that's fair. Okay, so what I wonder with that is that's probably like where we're at right now. I wonder what people's thoughts are for Mike Norvell long term.
Mm, that's
Like that's
that's
I
tough.
look, that's not something I had planned to talk about, and we don't have to get super deep on this. But I do wonder, like, are people confident that Mike Norvell is the long term answer at Florida State? Like,
I,
is your average fan?
I think that's a really tough question. Obviously, if you would, put that question out last December, meaning 2023, it would have been a 10 or a 100. Like everyone was all in on him. Alabama's athletic director came out and said directly they have only had two candidates, Kevin Moore and Mike Norvell, and Norvell loves it at Florida State. But 2-10 is unforgivable, TJ. It just really is. And I think he's got he had so much goodwill in this fan base, and he has a lot to try and earn back. I think he needs to win probably 9 regular season games this year just to get the faith back in him from the fan base, and more importantly, from the people who pay his paycheck, the boosters.
Yeah, I think what's tough is say you did go out and win 9 games this year. Who's to say we don't go 2-10 the year after? Right now, I
Yeah,
realize that that probably is never going to happen again,
yeah,
but who's to say that that doesn't happen? Right? Like how? So I think he needs to probably very seriously like put it together for several years. Right? Like you,
yeah.
even just 1 year of really good. I don't know if that gets you all the way back, like in people's grace, because like they're gonna need to see you not do it again. They're
Yeah,
gonna you need to see you not like have the fall. Now you go out and win. I mean, if you won 8 games this year, and then you win 10 the year after, and then you're competing for something series of the year. Like you do 3 years of like good, even if you went 8, 9, 9 or 8, 9, 10 or something like that, then I think that's when people would be like, okay, well, it's sustained. Because last time you won 10 and then 13, which was great, but then you immediately fell out. Like there was nothing sustained about it, right? And a lot of
no,
those were the same players. It was very easy to run it back with the same group of guys. So I don't know. I think it's got to be a little bit more of a sustained effort than I don't know if 1 year of anything this year is going to have everybody bout back on. Now, people we'll take the temperature check again, right? We're at a 42 right now. It would be if we win 9 games, it'll be up around a 70, right?
yeah, for sure.
It'll be up around a 75, but you're not going to be at the 100 you were at just 12 months ago.
Yeah, no, and it's tricky for him because you have to take into account the compensation, right? He is one of the highest paid coaches in all of college football. He was paid $10 million this year to win 2 football games. That's not going to sit well with people. And again, the expectation at Florida State should be a minimum 10 wins a year. Now, are you going to achieve that every single year? No, you will not. You'll have some seasons where you might win 6 games, you might win 8 games, but the expectation should be a minimum of 10 wins every year, understanding that injuries happen, that there's, lapses in recruiting where you just miss on one spot and that one spot happened to hurt you the most. That all does happen. But I think when you take into account how much money he's being paid, and I know he's donating some back, whatever, that doesn't do anything for me, to be honest. Uh, it,
Give
it
me some
re-
money and I'll put you up higher.
yeah, it doesn't matter at all. But yeah, I think when he was considered by most media outlets a top 5 coach in the country before the 2024 season happened. Now some aren't even having him in the top 25 because I've already seen some of these way too early lists because we are in list season and we'll probably get into some list in the next few weeks or so. But yeah, I think he's got his work cut out for him because if he wasn't owed what he was owed, $60+ million in buyout money, I don't think he would have survived.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. The other thing that you mentioned on recruiting, That's the biggest thing to me long term is, hey, you kind of got shown why recruiting is so important. Now can you out and do something about it? Like if they don't,
Yeah.
Richie, if they don't get, like I'm not all the way sold, right? Like I'm not all the way sold on like it's time to move on. Now, do I think that Mike
I
Norvell is
need
the
a
guy
top
long
10
term?
class. I need a top 10 class.
Yeah, I was gonna say 12 is the number for me,
Yeah,
because
that's
I
fair.
expect them to go about 7-5, 8-4. I think top 10 would be pretty aggressive there. But if you can go 12, top 12-ish, if it's a smaller class and you're like 13, 14, but your average is really high, you're not, I don't it doesn't bother me if, it's just like, oh well you or I don't need to see them take 7 3 stars at the end just to bump the class up or whatever, right?
No,
Like
no.
so that's kind of the way I look at it is can they be around that 12 range, right? Based on the number of guys they take. And I mean, they're off to a good start in 2026. Like, let's be honest, they've got a top 5
They are.
class right now. So it's way, way long from signing day right now. But if they can continue to grow that and be a little bit better, then we'll see. But the recruiting has to get better, or else he's not going to be the long term guy at Florida State. Like this is a talent acquisition business. You've got to bring in talent, and we haven't shown the ability to do that at a good enough rate yet. So we'll see if they change that.